There is a quiet fear many men never say out loud. It's not the silence of the house. It's the thought that silence might mean we no longer matter. If you're living alone and wondering how to feel whole again, you're not weak, you're human if you're watching this. There's a good chance you've known companionship, responsibility, noise, and purpose. And now life feels quieter. Maybe too quiet? You may enjoy your independence, yet still feel an ache you can't quite explain. Today, I want to sit beside you, not to lecture, not to rush you, but to share what I've learned about living alone without becoming lonely. Living alone does not mean life has ended. Often, it means life has finally slowed down enough to be understood. I learned my first lesson the hard way. When my days became empty, I filled them with television. Hours passed, days blended together, and somehow I felt more tired than ever. One morning, I turned it off and sat with my coffee in silence. At first, it felt uncomfortable. Then something gentle happened. I began to hear my own thoughts again. Loneliness isn't always the absence of people. Sometimes it's the absence of ourselves. Creating quiet rituals like a morning walk or an evening reflection can turn silence into companionship. Another thing I discovered was the importance of being useful. Not impressive, useful. I once helped a neighbor fix a broken chair. It took 10 minutes. But the gratitude in his eyes stayed with me all week. When we live alone, we can start to believe we're no longer needed. That belief slowly erodes the spirit. But usefulness doesn't retire with age. It changes shape. Small acts of service remind us we still belong to this world. I also had to learn how to befriend my own memories. For a long time, memories only brought regret, things I should have said, people I lost, paths I didn't take. One evening, instead of pushing them away, I wrote them down. Not to judge myself, but to witness my life honestly. I realized something important. Regret means you cared. And caring is not a failure. It's proof you lived deeply. When you make peace with your past, loneliness loses much of its power. Staying connected doesn't always mean being surrounded by people. It means choosing one or two meaningful connections and tending to them gently. I started calling an old friend once a week, not to complain, just to talk. Some weeks we spoke for an hour, some weeks for 5 minutes. But that simple rhythm gave my days an anchor. Depth matters more than numbers. Another lesson came from caring for my space. When I lived with others, I didn't notice my home. When I lived alone, it began to reflect my inner state. I cleaned one corner, then another. I placed photos where my eyes could rest on good memories. A peaceful home doesn't cure loneliness, but it softens it. Your surroundings can either echo emptiness or offer quiet comfort. I also learned to care for my body with kindness, not punishment. A short walk, gentle stretching, breathing deeply before sleep. These small acts reminded me I was still alive, still deserving of care. When the body feels respected, the heart follows. And finally, I stopped waiting for life to feel meaningful again before living it. Purpose doesn't arrive all at once at this stage of life. It whispers. It shows up in reading a good book, tending a plant, mentoring someone younger, or simply being present. Meaning grows when you give yourself permission to live slowly. Let me speak to you directly for a moment. If you are living alone, it does not mean you were forgotten. If your life feels quieter, it does not mean it is empty. You have carried responsibilities, protected others, endured loss, and kept going when no one was watching. That matters. It's okay if you feel tired. It's okay if some days feel heavier than others. You are allowed to forgive yourself for what you didn't know back then. You did the best you could with what you had. You still have dignity. You still have wisdom. And your presence, simply as you are, has value. If you'd like a few gentle ways to move forward, start small. Begin each morning with one intentional moment, a cup of tea in silence, a short walk, a deep breath. Reach out to one person each week, even briefly. Connection doesn't need to be loud to be real. Do one useful thing each day, no matter how small. It restores self-respect. Care for your space as if you are worth comfort, because you are. And speak to yourself with the same kindness you would offer an old friend. Living alone can become a place of peace, reflection, and quiet strength. Aging is not a shrinking of life. It is a deepening of it. You are not fading. You are becoming wiser, gentler, and more deeply human. If this message brought you comfort, consider joining our community. You are not alone. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Graceful Aging for more gentle wisdom and new videos that support your journey.